Divorce is easier than people think once you understand the system. Now, that does not mean divorce is easy emotionally. It can be deeply personal, stressful, and overwhelming. But the legal process itself is actually far more structured than most people realize. And when you understand that structure, when you know what happens first, what happens next, and what decisions matter most, you can move through your divorce with a lot more clarity, confidence, and control. I'm Randi, a lead family law attorney and founding partner here at BTL Family Law. Our firm has represented hundreds of clients in divorce and family law matters here in Arizona. One of the biggest things that we see over and over again is that people come into divorce feeling overwhelmed, not because the process is impossible, but because no one has clearly explained how it actually works. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the divorce process from start to finish. Not in a complicated, legal-heavy way, but in a clear, practical way so you understand exactly what happens first, what happens next, and what you should be thinking about at each stage. By the end of this, you'll have a framework you can use to navigate your divorce with a lot more clarity and confidence. And to make this simple, I'm going to break up the entire process into 5 key stages. Stage 1 is the petition, Stage 2 is the response, Stage 3 is disclosure and discovery, Stage 4 is settlement, and Stage 5, if necessary, is trial. Every divorce case, no matter how complex or how simple, moves through these same stages in some form. Now, what's important to understand is this. While the process is structured, the strategy within each stage is where the cases start to differ. So let's walk through each stage so that you know exactly what to expect and where the key decisions happen. The easiest way to understand divorce is if you think about it like following a GPS. You're moving through a set route, whether you realize it or not. The problem for most people is they're in the car, but they can't see the map. So every turn feels unexpected, every delay feels frustrating, and they don't know what's coming next. The petition is where the process begins. This is one party formally starting the divorce and laying out what they're asking for. Things like parenting time, division of assets, support. It's the GPS analogy. This is entering the destination. It doesn't mean that's exactly how things will play out, but it sets direction for where the case is going. Now, before we move on, there's an important concept to understand: temporary orders. Life doesn't pause just because a divorce is filed. People still need to know where they're going to live, how parenting time is going to work, and whether support will be paid. So in some cases, there's a need for temporary decisions to keep things moving while the case is ongoing. In the GPS analogy, this is like a detour. It's not part of every case, and even when it is, many times it can be worked out by agreement between the parties. But if needed, the court can step in and put temporary orders in place, typically addressing parenting time, child support, spousal maintenance, and the use of the marital home. And while we're talking about it here early in the process, it's important to know temporary orders can be requested by either party at different points during the case. Again, not every case needs this, but it is something that can come up depending on the situation. Next is the response. This is where the other party has the opportunity to agree, disagree, or propose something different. At this point, you're on the road. The GPS has the destination, and now both sides have weighed in. You're no longer at the starting point. The case is actively moving forward. Disclosure and discovery. This is the most important stage. Both sides exchange information, financials, assets, debts, income, everything that matters to the case. In the GPS analogy, this is when the map fully loads. You can see the terrain. You can see potential obstacles. You can see what routes are actually available. And without this step, you're essentially driving without visibility, which is where a lot of costly mistakes happen. Once you have the full picture, you move into settlement. This is where most cases are resolved. Now you're choosing the best route forward based on all the information. And there are a few different ways that this can happen. Sometimes the parties exchange settlement letters, going back and forth with proposed terms. Sometimes there are informal settlement conferences between attorneys. There are also court-sponsored options, what's called alternative dispute resolution, and that's where the court helps facilitate settlement discussions. And then there's private mediation, where the parties work with a neutral third-party mediator to try and reach a full agreement. In our experience, the most effective path, especially for people who want efficiency, control, and thoughtful outcomes, is private mediation with a skilled mediator. Because it gives you the opportunity to resolve everything in a focused environment with someone guiding the conversation, helping both sides work through issues and keeping things moving forward. If a full agreement can't be reached, the case moves to trial. At that point, you are presenting your case to the judge. Each side has the opportunity to present testimony, introduce evidence, and make arguments about what they believe the outcome should be, whether that relates to parenting time, division of assets, support, or other issues. The judge then reviews all of that, the testimony, the evidence, and the credibility of what's been presented, and applies the law to make a final decision. And in Arizona, that decision is typically not made the same day. The court can take up to 60 days to issue its ruling. Now, it's important to say this clearly. Sometimes cases do need to go to trial. Settlement doesn't always work. Sometimes there's a significant disagreement. Sometimes one party is being unreasonable. And in those situations, the court steps in and provides a resolution. But what's equally important to understand is this: the work that's been done in the earlier stages, how you approach disclosure, how you evaluate your case, how you prepare, that directly impacts how strong your position is if the case does go to trial. In our office, we are very resolution focused because for most clients, resolving the case outside of trial provides more control, reduces uncertainty, and avoids the increased costs of litigation. But at the same time, we are always prepared to litigate the issues when necessary. And that preparation matters, not just for trial, but also during settlement and mediation. Because when you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your case, you are in a much better position to make informed decisions and negotiate effectively. So when you step back and look at the full process, divorce isn't random. It's a progression. You enter the destination, you start moving forward, the full map becomes visible. You work to choose the best route, or if necessary, the court chooses it for you. And along the way, there may be detours depending on your situation. And just because there's a structure doesn't mean the experience feels simple. Every family is different. Every financial situation is different. And every set of priorities is different. The process is predictable, but the decisions and the impact of those decisions are very personal. And when you understand both the process and the role that each stage plays, you put yourself in a much stronger position to move through your divorce with clarity and confidence. The people who tend to do best in divorce aren't the most aggressive. They're the most prepared. They understand the process, they know what information matters, and they make decisions at the right time instead of reacting under pressure. And that preparation starts with understanding how the system actually works. If you're in Scottsdale, Phoenix, or in surrounding areas and you're facing a divorce, having the right guidance early on can make a significant difference in how your case unfolds. At BTL Family Law, we help clients understand the process, evaluate their options, and make strong decisions from the beginning. If you'd like help with your situation, you can reach out and schedule a consultation.